Man, thank you so much for joining us, brother, on a Friday afternoon.
It's a great week. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hell yeah. So for the people that don't know, you've had a huge successful entrepreneur history with Mizzen+Main clothing, and you're now onto your next project, Harbour. So I don't know if you want to give everyone just a bit of a high-level introduction as far as your career goes and how you got started.
I graduated in 2008, and I had a great start to my career. I worked for an amazing management consulting firm, actually in the Middle East. My first job was in the Middle East, which was a very cool experience. And then I worked for a company here in Dallas for several years, very storied, great company here in Dallas called Hunt Oil. And I had this burning desire to start what became Mizzen+Main. And that really took my career in a totally different trajectory. I never envisioned myself as an entrepreneur. It was not the career path that I thought. It's certainly not the one that I think my parents thought I would pursue. But in college, I watched a guy run into a building soaked in sweat. I was doing a political internship in DC, which taught me I never wanted to work in politics. But I watched this guy run into a building. He looked terrible, drenched in sweat. And when he dried off an hour later, his shirt looked even worse. I grew up playing golf. I'm wearing one of our Mizzen+Main polos today. And I grew up and I watched performance polos take over in the golf course. And I thought, why has no one ever made a dress shirt out of performance fabric? So I had this kind of aha moment, and I did a little bit of research, and ultimately I spent several years thinking about this idea. And after I worked for a few years in management consulting and then as an investment analyst, I ultimately just said, I got to give this idea a shot. And so that began the journey of me learning how to build a company, a brand, a team, fundraising, all of that. And fast forward to today, I'm now launching my second consumer product startup. We, as of the middle of February, officially hit publish on our wait list. We'll be shipping product later this spring and then wide later this summer. The reason why is I had this additional aha moment, an incredible frustration where the baby monitor that we were using for my son, the app crashed in the middle of the night. And then I learned you can't rely on Wi-Fi cameras to be baby monitors. They market themselves as baby monitors, but they're not. It's a Wi-Fi security camera that's pointed at a child. And so for years, just like Mizzen+Main, I thought about it. I wondered why no one was doing it. And when you ask the experts, there's all sorts of reasons why they say you shouldn't do it. But ultimately, I've learned about myself that I think kind of what I am uniquely positioned to do is take this type of an idea, figure out how to make it, and then build a brand and a product and a team and everything that it takes to get it out there in the world and change how people think about an industry and a product.
On the branding side of it, how did you want people to feel when they spoke about the brand?
When I built Mizzen+Main, the initial idea, the way that I sort of described it was, if Nike and Ralph Lauren had a baby, what would that look like, right? That was specifically what I said back in 2011 when I was getting going. I wanted it to be all the best performance, but feel like a classic brand that has been around forever, right? Storied classic brand. With Harbour, our desire is to change how American families, and maybe eventually the world, but we'll just start with how American families approach sleep and wellness, and to help them. Our mission is literally, we create happier parents and healthier families one restful night at a time. And so that belief needs to be tied to a brand that when you see it, you feel calm, you feel family, you feel love, you feel a sense of trust and peace, and a sense of also like, they get me. Parenting is really hard. Let's not make it any harder. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, but also know that this is the most important thing in the world. I think what sets Harbour apart from the others is we're all about equipping you and your child for healthy sleep habits and lowering the stress and anxiety of parenting and trying to create happier and healthier families.
Beautiful, man. And so now moving into Harbour, what was that transition like and how long was it over?
I stepped down from Mizzen+Main day to day in middle of 2019. Decided after a few years, I'm in my mid-30s, I cannot shake this idea for what has now become Harbour. Like I have to do this. And so then it was all in on trying to get Harbor off the ground. My background is consumer. I've built a brand. I know how to do all that stuff. I am not the technical person, but then I was all in on finding that technical co-founder.
What questions do you ask someone that you were looking to partner with, but at that level, when you know it's going to be expensive, you know how intense the workload is going to be and how much faith you need to put into a partner? What are the questions that you ask each other?
One of the things that really was paramount for me was understanding complementary capabilities and comparative advantages. So what are you uniquely gifted at, and what is your management team, your partners, your business, your vendors, relationships, and the skill set of Venn diagram overlap was the number one first thing that I was looking for. Because if Charlie was basically me duplicated, that's not helpful, and I don't that's not what we need. So that was the first thing I was looking for. The second thing was, do we see the world in enough of the same way in how to build a company, how to treat people from an integrity perspective, from a, look, I want to build a company and I want to change the world, but at the end of the day, my family is the most important thing to me. Like, do all of those things align? The other things are like, how do you want to run the company? And Charlie and his family live in Philadelphia. His wife is in a GI fellowship program. And so we had a really frank conversation around, like, I live in Dallas and I've already moved once. I'm never leaving Dallas again. He could end up somewhere else. Some people say if you're not working next to each other, every single day, you can't possibly build a company. And there are some companies that the employees and team literally never meet because that's the way that they operate. We're somewhere in between. Like, we don't live in the same place, but we get together a lot. And those types of working dynamics, I think a lot of people don't spend the time up front to ensure that you are aligned. We want to work really hard. We want to make the best product imaginable. We want to operate with high integrity. We want to treat our employees with respect, but let them live their own lives. If you're checking Slack 15 times a day, you're doing something wrong. When you get through all that stuff, you're like, yep, okay, we want to build a company the same way. We are cut from the same cloth from an integrity perspective. And then everything else, you just got to know that you're committed to, we're going to run into some profound disagreements, and what does that look like? And so we worked through that, and we've been working together for almost 18 months, and it's been an awesome ride so far.
What challenges did you face with Mizzen+Main that you quickly adapted to with Harbor, and that you just knew, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to make this mistake again?
I think the biggest tangible thing that I'm doing this time is using leverage that I gained from having done this once before. And then the other piece is social proof. And so social media was certainly ascendant in 2012 when I started Mizzen+Main. It was very different back then. Now, right out of the gate, we're not buying advertisements anywhere. We are just partnering with momfluencers who believe in what we're doing and helping equip them with the ability to tell our story, because moms are going to look to other moms largely for this type of guidance and advice. And so, the influencer market was not really a thing in 2012. I guess there were some. And we have a couple celebrity investors who've invested in the business, and it's great to have their support behind us. Tim Tebow and his wife, Thomas Morstead, and his wife, Lauren, is a good friend, and John and Maddie Isner. And so having celebrity investors behind us right out of the gate gives us some additional credibility. And then it's sort of a lesson from Mizzen and what I'm doing differently, but it's also just the nature of having built a business before. Investing in our brand and our website and content creation so that what we do is meticulously beautiful, it's coherent, it's well done. I mean, I was taking pictures of some of our first products with, my own DSLR when I started Mizzen+Main, because I can't afford to hire a photographer and a model and do all that stuff. With this, I've come a long way. We have a very beautiful product. We've executed that very nicely, but it's also the nature of the product that we're making. To stand up a production line for this type of hardware it's millions of dollars of R&D and equipment, NRE, CapEx. You can't just minimum viable product launch something like this, that you are taking care of something too precious. And so we've put in literally 18 months. We're building the production line at the moment. We'll ship our product this summer to customers. It's a very different experience as opposed to like, I bought 1,000 units of a shirt from a shirt manufacturer. So those things necessitate a different approach. With Mizzen, I didn't hire anybody from the industry for at least 5 years because everyone from the industry told me it wouldn't work. So why would I hire anybody from the industry? That was the wrong approach. Like there were certainly people I could have hired from the industry. But with this, we have several world-class advisors, and I've hired very sophisticated technical background people in the roles that are required to execute a project of this magnitude. And so
tell me, what was that first moment like when you created the button was live, the add to cart button was live?
It's an awesome thing to tell people what you're working on. It's a great thing to get people to go, oh, that's so cool, I'm so excited for you, to get investors to support you. But when you see that someone has, swiped their credit card, Apple Pay, whatever, online, and they've said, I'm willing to give you money for the thing that you have produced, it's a very unique feeling, especially, that first day. And with how far we've come with Mizzen to where we've sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product, there's this kind of push and pull for me where I'm like, okay, we got to the first 100. Okay, we're getting the second 100. You keep going, going, going. It's still small, but it's this magical moment where like I can see my friends who bought one because they're pregnant. I've gotten at least half a dozen text messages from friends who said, hey, we're expecting our third. I just signed up to be on the wait list. That is, to me, it's a more magical feeling than, crossing the $1 million threshold, the $10 million threshold, the $100 million threshold, because it's so deeply personal on a one-to-one level. For the first probably 18 months of Mizzen+Main, I put a handwritten note in every single box that went out the door.
For people that are getting started with their own business, and especially product-based businesses, what's a couple of pieces of advice that you would give them that are, taking everything you learned from Mizzen+Main and now Harbor, whether it's tech-based or not? What's something that just comes to mind, like you wish you knew earlier?
I can't remember who tweeted this. It was a Paul Graham-esque type of tweet that I saw recently where it's like, founders are unreasonably naive, and you have to be, otherwise you wouldn't do it. If you knew how hard it was going to be, you wouldn't do it. I saw an interview with, I think it was NVIDIA's CEO, and someone was saying like, oh, if you could do it all over again, would you? And he was like, no, definitely not. And it was such a real thing to say. Obviously, I would do it again because I am doing it again. I'm coming at it this time around with a healthier appreciation for the highs and lows that come along. I definitely hit a very depressed moment in the early years of Mizzen+Main that I was struggling to get out of bed and just absolutely drowning and struggled to execute, struggled to do anything in a day. And I think, having kids helps put things in perspective and also raises the stakes. But, what would I tell myself? It's, you have no idea the number of things that are going to go wrong and how wrong they can go. But if you are doing things with integrity and holding yourself accountable and being transparent, you'll find a way. Another thing that I'm kind of doing differently this time than I did the first time, I felt like I was very transparent before, but I write a weekly investor update, and now my whole team does. They all contributed to it. And so every single week we have a recap of wins, losses, things that are going wrong, progress that's being made. I doubt every investor reads all of them, or any investor has read every one of them, but raising up issues and talking about it and telling people how things are going is the best. Like, sunlight is the best disinfectant, and visibility and transparency is the best way to run a company. so that when things do go wrong, because they do, you've given everybody the opportunity to be up to speed along the way.
Is that something you learn along the way? Because I find that's increasingly important with even what I'm doing now. I'm trying to get better at that factor of that part of communication and being okay with that. Is that something you learned early on, or is it something you're still trying to work on now?
So I held an investors, like a shareholders meeting at Mizzen+Main before we had an institutional investor or a board, because I thought it would be a good thing to be able to do. I had pieces of it along the way, but I am a student, a fan of, and a friend of Sam Korkos and all the things that the Levels Health team has built. They have an incredible group of co-founders there. And Sam is a very strong proponent of building public and releases so much of their information on an ongoing basis. I am not doing it at quite his extreme of a level, but ultimately taking a lot of inspiration from it. And so I sort of started dabbling in it before I even launched the company, just started writing memos and sharing it with advisors and friends as a way to...
Do you do that internally as well? Like embrace that communication internally?
Radical transparency from a company perspective, which I continue to find surprising that so many startups don't provide that. We publish our cash on hand in our investor update every single week, so everybody sees it. Not just our employees, but not just our investors, but all of our employees see it. And to me, I think that everyone that's a part of your company deserves to know where you are as a company. There may be legal or strategic reasons why you can't disclose some things, but when you hit a bump in the road and you tell people, hey, this bump has come, they probably already knew it was coming, and they're more likely to give you the grace and patience to work through it rather than say, I got to get out of here because it looks like this, this place isn't what I thought it was, or may not make it. So
do you feel like it's met with more compassion than you expect when you're about to, when you're approaching those negatives and you're in the trenches with it, and you're hesitant to give out that information, discuss it, have that open communication? Do you feel that it's met with more grace than you initially expect?
I'm going to say no, because it's what I expected and hoped for, right? Like I didn't expect it to not be. And I look at, if I were an employee of the startup, I would want to know that information. So why wouldn't I, as the founder, give them that information? They deserve it. Why would I not? And so I would say it's not unexpected, because it's what I would expect and it's what I would hope for. And then, very, very concretely, the other piece that I'm doing differently this time, and I would advise anybody, is you need to find the experts and either get them to advise you, have a call, come on board as a consultant, or hire them. There's so much complex technical details of what we're doing. I have 4 deeply engaged advisors or consultants who are either equity or hourly paid that I lean on all the time. Because when it comes to hardware, software, and telehealth, and all the implications of the product that we're selling, we have to be perfect, and we cannot afford to step in. Like, there's always going to be problems that arise, but if we have not asked every question and then said, what are we not asking? Tell us everything that that we should know. Then you're doing your company, your team members, your customers, your investors a disservice. And at Mizzen, I sort of eschewed all expertise because they all told me I was dumb. And we survived, fortunately. But bring on that expertise as soon as possible. And if you can't afford it, find a way to beg, borrow, or say, like, I'll pay you back, give them equity, whatever it takes. Bring in that expertise from the very beginning, because you need someone to tell you ahead of time, don't do that one thing as often as possible.
Got you. And I think as founders, you're really like learning so quickly in so many ways.
Yeah.
Especially with your first company, you were just learning to every day is like making a mistake, figuring it out, and never making that mistake again.
Yeah.
And whether you're right, wrong, or indifferent, it's you have to. If you're going to be successful, you need to take it and learn from it. On the note of, I'll just ask one more question, and then I've just got a few rapid fire questions that I want to ask. But on the note of being told no, like, how do you, I mean, has it gotten easier over the years? Is it still just as frustrating? Is it empowering nearly to prove someone wrong? Like, how do you absorb the word no?
Yeah, so I think my general answer there is it's gotten easier because you just get kind of used to it. It wasn't Andreessen. I think Andreessen was quoting somebody else, Chris Sacca maybe, said, entrepreneurs end up, it's like chewing glass, and you end up learning to like the taste of your own blood, and which is so messed up.
It's fucking weird.
But like, there is something special about, these things are going to happen all the time. And then you just go like, this is what I signed up for. This is it, right? This is what I'm supposed to do. If it were easy, everybody else would do it.
I feel like it's also hard for people, a lot of people not to, especially at the start, to not take it personal. Like, so much of it is timing. Yeah. Like, people, especially when you're asking of something from someone, it's timing first and foremost. Yeah. Like, whether the product is good enough or is basically irrelevant if the timing is just wrong.
I learned, I had to remember and get some perspective. Every massively successful company has, like, I'll joke, like a burn book of all the people that turned them down, right? And many of the smartest investors in the world passed on most of the greatest ideas today, right? Because if they didn't, they would all be in the best deals. And there's always a question of, as you said, timing. I will say it was really emotionally draining going through the process of, like, I would get introduced from a well-known friend or contact of a partner of a firm. I would send them the information. I could see they looked at the deck. They passed it to someone else in their firm. And it was a warm introduction, and they would just not respond. And that level of disrespect for founders is bullshit. I understand that everyone's overwhelmed with email, but like, figure it out. And this was not a cold email where I guessed their email address and like I've imposed on their time. To be fair, it is their job to solicit information and deals. But I look at some guys like Brad Feld. Brad is an absolutely respectful, extraordinary human who very diligently responds to basically everyone that pitches him. And I'm sure a lot of them he doesn't spend much time looking at and just immediately says no. But just being told no, I honestly started to appreciate, because it was like, I'm not just wondering, did they just get busy? Should I email them again? And so
you don't feel so invisible anymore. Like, yes. Feeling invisible is just the worst part. It's like, you start second guessing everything.
And ultimately the no's are the building blocks for the yes.
Beautiful, man. Well, I'm going to run you through some rapid fire questions, okay? I didn't tell you what these were. And these are always, every time I tell someone that these are rapid fire, they end up being fucking a 10-minute answer to every question, because they get so deep for no reason.
Yeah.
Let's do rapid fire. Yeah. All right. So what's one thing you regret spending money on?
The wrong types of advisors or consultants.
Got it. If you could switch lives of one person for the day, who would it be?
For just one day, and I'm not saying this is not a political thing, it would be whoever the current president of the United States is, because I would go want to look up a bunch of stuff about aliens and JFK and see what all the crazy information that I don't know is. That's what I would want to know.
Yeah, that's a sick answer. Actually, that's right. What dish do you cook best?
Ribeye.
Oh, okay. That's a real answer.
Yes.
All right. So what is your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. I have a terrible sweet tooth. Like it's just it's my Achilles heel is my sweet tooth. But I will say the thing that I am fighting all the time is not doom scrolling, but meme scrolling. I just love hysterical memes, and I've got a couple of friends and we just fire them back and forth to each other. I could do it all day and not get tired, and that's a terrible use of time.
I think that's perfect, though. We all need our outlet. What is your pet peeve?
Dishonest people.
Nice. What's your biggest weakness?
My distractibility.
Okay. Biggest strength?
I guess I'm going to have to say creating a brand and product out of thin air.
Fuck yeah, you are. That's exactly what you need to say. What did you want to be when you were 12 years old?
12. I think if I'm thinking back to 12, I think I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay, same. That's so funny.
Fun side fact in the rapid fire. So, fun side fact in the rapid fire. I actually, in high school, had a sort of an internship as a manatee trainer. I worked at an aquarium and spent time with professionals doing husbandry procedures with manatees. So, I scratched that itch.
In Australia, it was I quickly realized, I got told by my biology teacher in high school that, because we went and did the trip out on the Great Barrier Reef and everything, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. And I'm like, cool, everyone here are volunteers, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Do you have a morning routine?
Yes, it is not religious. I miss it all the time, but I get up between 5:15 and 5:30, some measure of journal or read or both, and not every morning will also work out. I have a tonal and a Peloton, and so I used to go away to the gym, but now I do it in the morning, and then my kids are up and we do breakfast 7 to 8.
Nice. If you couldn't be an entrepreneur, what profession would you pursue?
What would I pursue? Well, I thought you were saying what should you be, and probably a marine biologist. I will say there are way too many executive coaches and advisors and all of those things, but having now done this twice, I would love to spend, hopefully we're wildly successful here, and when I'm doing whatever is next, it would be spending time with entrepreneurs and helping people in the early days of very difficult decisions and not wasting their time or money.
Epic. That's great. And that last one, what's the biggest experience you've had? What's the biggest learning experience?
I was going to say the biggest experience. Gosh, I don't know about that. Biggest learning experience that I've had. So that I can avoid legal trouble and not naming names, it would be grossly underestimating, or as a president once said in the United States, misunderestimating people's integrity, and the scale of what that cost me is enormous. And so thinking I knew people and their true motivations and being very, very wrong, it has made it to where I'm not an untrusting person. I still trust, but I'm just much less surprised now. And I think I've built more of the right fail-safes should things go wrong, while still allowing me to cultivate and develop those relationships. Got you.
Man, that's everything I wanted to run through today. Thank you so much. If there was one thing that, I don't know if you read on the email, that we're getting guests to ask the audience one question at the very end. I don't know if you had something prepared already. It could be about anything. It could be directed, aimed at anyone. It could be big or small, irrelevant or relevant. I'll give it to you.
What is the most magical product experience that you, as a guest, as a listener, whatever, what's the most magical product experience that you've had? And that can be food, hotel, product, iPhone, Peloton, tone, whatever. I love hearing the things that people just were like, this was magic, right? Like not that's a nice product. That's quality, magical experience from a product perspective.
Love it. Kevin, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it so much. You're an incredible human. I'm so lucky that I got the chance to connect with you, and that's exactly why we're doing this podcast, is to make those connections with incredible people and bring their experience to some kind of scale where people can learn from it as well. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Like I'd already told you, I've told a handful of people already, a couple of people that are pregnant, that my partner's friends of, about the product, and they're already obsessed with it. So awesome. You're doing something really good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem, brother. I'll talk to you real soon. Thank you again.